Hey everyone, I'm Danny and welcome to Wizardry Workshop. So in this video we're going to be making the Pick N Trix from Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, and this is basically like a cone that you could get at their shop and like fill it with whatever candy or whatever you want, and it's basically like a mix and match. Pick N Trix doesn't really make sense. But that's what it's called, so it's basically you pick and match different candies with this. And I thought it would be great for like a gift or something. You could fill it with whatever candy you want and give it to somebody. So I thought it would be great to do for December for the holiday that's coming up. It doesn't exactly, the colors and stuff, it doesn't exactly look like Christmas. You know, you can see it, it doesn't look like the holiday, but it is a really cool gift, and I think a lot of Harry Potter fans would love to see this in their stocking or somewhere for the holiday. This is printed on cardstock, which has gold on one side and white on the other. So it's pretty thick cardstock. It almost got my printer jammed up when I put this through. So you want to make sure that you select, when you're doing your print settings, you select the thickest paper that your printer can handle when you put this through. Anyways, it's on 8.5 by 11 paper or A4 paper. Either one will work, and now it's pretty simple. It's just a matter of basically cutting this out. I do have a Cricut cut guide for this, so you can use that, or you can use a ruler and an X-Acto knife, or you can use a pair of scissors, whatever you want to do. Most people don't have a Cricut who are watching this video, so I'm going to go ahead and do this by hand. And I'm going to do this with a ruler and X-Acto knife, as always, and a pair of scissors for some of the finer details in here where the faces are. You can see it's like this silhouette smiling faces here. So let's go ahead and do the straight edges of this with a ruler and X-Acto knife. And this is very thick paper, so I'm going to go over it a couple of times just to make sure it goes all the way through. And when you're cutting this out, you'll be able to see that there is a gray part right here. And that gray part is, you want to keep that on there because that's where we're going to fold it and glue it or tape it in order to get this thing to close up. When you are cutting on the thicker paper, you want to make sure that you use a new blade, or at least a very somewhat new blade. Like, you don't want to have an old blade on your X-Acto knife because then it's going to get caught on the paper and it could rip. It's just not a good idea. All right, so from here, there aren't too many straight angles that are going to be very like easy to cut. So I'm just going to do a couple more here. So now at this point, I think it's safe to just, there's so many different angles in here, it's going to be safe to go ahead and use the scissors to cut some of this out. To get these parts out, where the stars are on the eyes and then this part just right in between their necks or the backs of their heads, I'm going to use my ruler and X-Acto knife. The stars, you want to go from the tip points of the stars inward toward the center when you cut this out. That way you don't cut into the actual template. You're just cutting inwards toward basically the center of the star. In fact, I'm finding it a bit easier to just use the X-Acto knife with no ruler. So if you trust your steady hand to do that, that actually is a little bit easier to just sort of trace these stars. And so here it is when it's all cut out, the eyes and everything. I did mess up on one of the eyes, but you can't really tell that much unless you're really looking for it, but that star is a little weird. I'm going to score this first. It's going to make it a lot easier and look nicer when we actually fold it. So I'm using a scoring tool. You could use anything that has like just a dull tip that's not going to cut into the paper. And I'm putting my ruler where the folds should be. So the first one's going to be right here along the flap. There we go. And then every fold is just going to be right where the color changes. These 3 points right here where the color changes from orange to purple. So one right here, And then we've got another one here. And then one last one right here. All right, so now it should be pretty simple to fold them. You can even see the scoring right here on the gold side. So to fold it, just fold at each one of those score marks that we just made. So here's kind of what we're going for right here. As you can see, it's taking that kind of like a cone shape. All we need to do is stick this side to this side. And I'm using double-sided tape for that. This is permanent double-sided tape. So we're going to try and get it just as close to where the flap meets the orange as possible. There we go. And then any pieces that are overlapping right here, you can either fold them in on themselves and stick them down, or you can actually just trim them off with your scissors if you'd like. This whole flap right here is covered with double-sided tape. And then we just fold it back into that cone shape, pinch it down, and then get that shape back out to how it was. I'm also gonna use a little bit of tissue paper on this. I chose green tissue paper because I think it goes well with that orange and purple on there. And it kind of matches the color of the text here, the Pick N Trix there, and down here where it says Weasley and Weasley. So I'm just gonna cut a piece off about the same size as the cone. And then we'll just stuff it in there like this. That was too small. Let's try that again. I'm gonna cut a piece off that will kind of like fit in there, sort of like stuffed in. Maybe a larger square about like this will work better. There we go. So now we have this larger square of tissue paper. So there we go. Now I have stuffed some green tissue paper in there. You can still see the gold around there. And the tissue paper is optional, but if you're putting like pieces of chocolate in here, it's probably best so that they don't like melt inside of it and are like unable to get out of there. So yeah, you know, I think the Pick N Trix is probably supposed to be similar to Pick and Mix, but Pick N Trix doesn't really grammatically make any sense. And I think this thing turned out pretty good. I know it's not gonna stand up because it's a cone, it's just gonna fall over, but you can use some like invisible cord. I used the same stuff in my floating candles video. So you can get some of that stuff and use that invisible cord to sort of have this float. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put this up in, I have a Weasley's part to my shelf right up here, and I'm going to have this sort of like floating in there with that invisible cord. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Oops, I did cut into the hat there.